Paslanmaz Kalem'den herkese merhaba, ben Emre Karacaoğlu. Bugün Antimatter'dan dostum Mick Moss'la beraberiz. Mick Moss'la bu röportajın benim için biraz bir önemi var. Çünkü 2003 senesinde Antimatter'ın ilk İstanbul konserini ben düzenlemiştim. İki tane arkadaşımla beraber. Arkadaşlarımdan birisi Volkan Bozacı, kendisi şu anda Jazz Productions firmasının sahibi. Diğer arkadaşım da Derin Gürsoy. İkisine de buradan selamlarımı söylüyorum. Onların yardımları olmasa, yani yardım demem lazım. Onlarla beraber düzenledik zaten. Onlarsız asla olmazdı. Bunun dışında bir iki ismi daha anmam gerekiyor burada. 2003 yılında şu andaki gibi böyle bir internette, şu andaki bir sosyal medya gibi imkanlar yoktu. O zamanlar bana konser esnasında, daha 20 yaşındayken bunu yaparken bana Çağlan Tekil ve Güven abi çok yardımları dokunmuşlardı tanıtımında. Onlara da buradan selamlarımı söylüyorum. Ayrıca de tabii Çağlan abiye acil şifalar diliyorum. Onun aramıza dönmesini bekliyorum. Ona da selamlarımı iletiyorum. Çok güzel bir konserdi. Şimdi Mick'e döneceğim. Onunla röportajımdan önce o günleri nasıl hatırladığını soracağım. Mick, thank you for accepting my invitation to this interview.
All right, Emre.
The first time that we met was in 2003 in Istanbul. How do you remember those times? How do you remember that gig?
Not very well because back in those days, me and Duncan were taken to drinking tequila before shows. So, which wasn't the best move because I don't think it serves the audience very well to have the person who's on the stage to be quite so drunk.
Well, if you ask me, I don't think anybody had any objection to any of your.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a wonderful gig. It was quite crowded, about 200 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember that everybody enjoyed it.
Okay.
The ones on the stage as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a wonderful time for me. I was 20. I was meeting my famous favorite musicians, whom I had already befriended on the internet. So it was a lovely experience for me. It was not only your first gig, but it was Duncan's first gig in Istanbul as well.
Oh,
so it was kind of special for him as well, if I remember.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Back to now. I had spoken with you a few months back. I know you were working on your new material. Could you share with us the latest update on what you're doing recently?
I actually started working last year on the next album, but then I had to stop that because I had to get working on. I've recently released a live DVD CD where we're playing with a string quartet.
Yeah, I remember.
Now that was a difficult process, and that took about 5-6 months to get through. So the work was postponed on the next album. So I've only recently started getting back into it, but there's a certain concept around it, not a concept, but there's a certain theme around the next album that I can't really talk about.
Okay.
You know, just because when I announce it, I want it to be kind of like, obviously whenever I announce it, nobody knew before then, but I just want to save that, you know, the announcements for when it's ready, you know. But I've got 10 or 11 songs there, which are all pretty much written.
All written recently, or you picked up something from your archives?
Yeah, kind of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
the ones that fit into the concept.
Kind of. Yeah. Yeah. Just, you know, there's some really, because I write a lot of songs.
Yeah.
And they're stored in there. They're not stored in a hard drive.
Okay.
And I'm 45 this year, and I'm starting to think about mortality now. You know, even though I'm not exactly 70 or whatever, but I am starting to think now about mortality. So what I'd like to do is rescue some of the songs that I've got stored in my head, because if I die, they die with me.
True.
You know, so I need to throw a little net over them and drag them out into the world, give them a second chance.
I see. So you're not going to disclose much more anymore. Okay,
No.
That's fine. Yeah. That's right. All right. Now moving on to the latest album, Black Market Enlightenment. From what I have understood from your lyrics and of course your interviews, it is about your disillusionment with, how should I put it, with, let me say, the supplements, which you thought initially were the way to enlightenment.
Yeah.
But my question is, Mick, be it drugs or any other kind of catalyzer, like it could be, it's different for everybody. It could be spirituality for some people. It could be yoga. It could be sports. Or it could be sex, philosophy, art, science, whatever.
Absolutely.
Don't you think that these actually could be the way to enlightenment? Or what's the first phase before enlightenment? Like, many people say it's killing the ego. When you kill your ego, you start on your path to enlightenment. Couldn't these things, these catalyzers, help you?
Yeah, they could, but in the long term, if you get trapped in a cycle where you focus only on these substances, I mean, you've mentioned there yoga and sports and sex,
politics, whatever.
Well, that they're completely natural things which you could do every day.
True.
And but in terms of introducing, as I was doing, a chemical into my bloodstream, I don't think that's something you can do. It's in the long term.
Drugs can kill you, but yoga cannot kill you, probably.
Exactly.
If that's what you mean. But my point is, couldn't that be a starting point?
It absolutely could, yeah. And I still maintain, and I've maintained throughout the interviews that I've done for Black Market Enlightenment, that I think LSD, for some people, if treated with respect and with long enough time spent between trips, is a fantastic opener of the spiritual valves.
It's a mind expansion drug, that's what they say.
Yeah. But, see, my problem was, it's like eating fast food or sex or anything that triggers the endorphins off.
True.
I just wanted to do it again and again and again. And you can't do that with LSD. You absolutely cannot do that with LSD. And I was doing it with cannabis also, and to some degree amphetamines. And then it became kind of just a really selfish thing that I was doing. And it was quite simply to please myself. And I wasn't really caring much about the external ramifications of what I was doing. And that is not spiritual, to only consider oneself like that. It's the opposite,
Whatever transpired in your life during that period, I can understand, but from the view of a listener like me, of your listeners like me, you kept producing music. You kept making music during that time, if I remember correctly. I mean, but
yeah, well,
you still were able to be fruitful.
Yeah, it was the music that was keeping me sane, as sane as possible,
Okay.
while I was having various breakdowns. From my limited understanding of sociology, it's a very male characteristic that if you focus on work, then you become consumed by work, and then the work itself becomes everything. So if originally my goal was a very selfish goal of just filling my bloodstream up with, chemicals and whatever, and then losing my sanity to a large extent, I managed to distract myself with the creation of music.
Yeah.
So if you were to throw a dart at a calendar, randomly at any day during that period of say 95 to 98, and the dart landed on a random day, you could pretty much guarantee that on that day I was focusing on the creation of music.
I see.
And that was a great distraction technique from the destruction of my sanity, because my mind was turning inwards. So yeah, I don't think the drugs helped me create music. I think I created the music to get away from the damage I'd done with the drugs.
That's the positive side of music in general, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
about this album, I found it, if you agree with me, Mick, I found it to be a very melodic album. If I remember correctly, in the past the songs used to be more vocals oriented. Like, I could tell that you had sat down with a guitar and composed those songs. But right now, it seems like to me that you are. It seems as if like you've been practicing with this band for quite a long time, and that everybody has brought something into the music. Whether that's artificial or not, I don't know. But that's what it felt like with this one.
No, it's just I didn't make the album with a band. I kind of I am the band on Black Market Enlightenment. What you can hear in that development is quite simply, if you do anything for long enough, then you're just going to get better and better and better at it. You know?
And what do you call it? Arranging? Like you got...
Yeah, arranging. Yeah. So I mean, I'm at home. I'm taking care of the drums. I mean, I composed the drums, and from day one, the drums have been composed with these two fingers. You know, so I started off on a drum machine. You know, when it's like kick, drum, snare, rides, and cymbals, like that. And now I do it with a keyboard. You know, I've got the drums set up on a keyboard. So even though it is, instead of, you know, because I can't play the drums, but I can play the fingers.
True.
You know. So over the years, I've just got better and better and better, and you know, expressing what I want in terms of rhythms and
it shows.
Yeah, it's you know, but I mean, if you like, no one comes out of the womb swinging a golf club and knocking a golf ball across, you know, to get it perfectly into a hole fucking miles away. So you know, it's just practice, and I'm passionate about music, so it's not a chore for me. It's kind of like, okay, what can I do next? Where can I go next?
And it really shows, like, because, like I said, in this last album, it's like I'm listening to a prog band.
Yeah.
They're working on, it's like they decided to get together and say, all right, let's do a simple album together. We are a prog band, but let's keep the musicianship a little bit low, but showcase our abilities at the same time as well. That's what it felt like with this one.
Well, it was kind of the opposite. It was a project that started off with very simple melodic songs and not many diversions within a song, you know. And I'm going to talk about my music here because obviously for the first 3 albums, the Antimatter was the work of Duncan Patterson as well, who did half an album himself on his road of his journey, and I did half an album myself. So when I'm talking about my songs, if you think about the first album, you've got what, Over Your Shoulder, Saviour, you know,
Flowers were Duncan's.
Flowers was Duncan's, The Last Laugh, and that was very just kind of like verse, chorus, bit, end, you know. And I just started album by album thinking, I'm not happy with this. I want to push and see where it can go within the confines of a song. With Black Market Enlightenment, that lust, and it was a lust to just go places, to just start the song off and then where can we take it from here, you know. And if you take a listen to like Between the Atoms, I mean, it's got probably about like 4 distinct different pieces of music in there with a huge atonal
section,
bad trip section in the section in the middle. You've got Sanctification that starts in one place, ends somewhere completely different, almost 20 BPM faster.
True.
After weaving through 3 different keys. So I mean that's where my head was at. And I'm curious how the next album will be. I mean, can I even push it any further, or am I going to rein it and get a bit more sensible?
Okay. And of course, one of the most important aspects of your music, the lyrics. I know that they have been always very important for you, and maybe in the past you actually decorated the song around the lyrics, maybe.
Oh yeah.
But right now, I'm feeling that, and when we look at the themes, you have moved quite far away from the personal focus of the lyrics to a more social and even sometimes political.
That's right.
Political one.
Yeah.
How do you account for this change? Do you think it's Like, is it like an age thing, or is it like, okay, I have spoken enough about me and my inner demons. Now it's time actually to tackle other issues. Is it like that, maybe?
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, not everything's for one reason alone. You know, there might be like layered reasons, but I do remember around the time of Leaving Eden, because Leaving Eden, I was gathering up mostly older songs that were left off Lights Out and left off Planetary Confinement. And actually at the time, there was one album left on the Antimatter contract. And I thought that was kind of the end anyway of Antimatter, because it had been very much promoted around Duncan Patterson, ex-Anathema, which was correct for the half of Antimatter that, you know, as I said earlier, like Duncan's wrote, but the half of Antimatter that was mine, that I'd been working on, I wasn't ex-Anathema.
No.
Duncan Patterson, you know.
You were 100% Antimatter.
I was 100% Mick Moss, you know.
True.
So I thought, because of the heavy promotion around Duncan, I thought Leaving Eden would be kind of like the last one. I thought people would be like, well, you can't have an Antimatter without a Duncan, you know, because that's the way it's been wrapped up and sold, you know. So I gathered the songs from Leaving Eden, and they were all mostly older, inward-looking songs.
True.
You know, and by that time I was getting a bit sick of repeating myself, because I'd done songs about like agoraphobia, paranoia, you know, agoraphobia, paranoia, ex-girlfriends, paranoia, agoraphobia, and it was like, I can't really keep saying this again and again, and I've said what I need to say. And I had, so that's correct from that point of view, but I also had demons that had come to me from, you know, from societal and political angles as well, and they needed to be spoken to. They needed to be addressed.
And I know also that alienation was also a central topic in your songs as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And when you talk about alienation, you have to involve the outside world as well, because you feel alienated from the past, from the rest.
Yeah.
So, all right, maybe you're telling me maybe it's not only an age thing, but it was a natural progression, probably.
It was a natural progression, but I mean, it was just, I'd contemplated my inner self enough, and yes, as I'd got older, I was contemplating the other things, you know, the external things, you know.
Of course. Now, before this interview, I asked you if you could allow me to ask one question about the experience with Duncan Patterson. Now, like I told you, Nick, I'm not interested in any of your personal matters between him and you, but I'm absolutely very curious about how his departure from the band affected you musically. Did it affect your songwriting? But I know that your work ethic before his departure was that you sat separately, you wrote your own songs and he wrote his own songs, and maybe when you were recording, of course, you thought about everything together, the arrangements and everything together. After his departure, how did these phases, the songwriting, the recording, and the producing and the arranging, how did that change?
Well, for me, it didn't, because the previous album, Planetary Confinement,
last one with him.
The one before Leaving Eden. We'd split as far that we worked in separate studios.
I remember.
In separate years, in separate countries, you know. So we were both completely self-sufficient units by that time. So what changed after that split was that, quite simply, I had to write and produce twice as much material.
Okay.
So that was kind of like, okay, the workload's doubled, which meant that albums would then probably be released slower if we had to stay together. we could have easily released an album every 18 months.
True.
Easily, you know, and that would have been very interesting
Mm-hmm.
to see, you know. When Duncan was no longer there, the releasing of albums was to slow down. But on the upside, I had complete control over the concept of every single song on the album, which meant that from that point onwards, I could release concept albums.
True.
You know?
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, in the past it was kind of like, you know, Duncan had his songs which were written about one thing,
Mm-hmm.
my songs were written about another thing, and we hadn't really thought about, okay, well, can we work towards a concept, or, you know, so there was like two different subjects, although if you were to group them together, they did probably have a
Yes.
common thread,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
because we were both a bit
But not a
pissed
concept
off.
album.
But yeah, but never a concept album.
What about Fear of a Unique Identity? Like, would you say that's a concept album? For
They're,
instance?
they're all concept albums. I mean, Leaving Eden was, even though like a lot of the songs were written before that album was even considered,
Mhm.
but they were all written about the same subject, which is just thinking, how did I end up here? You know, in the past I had, you know, confidence, friends, you know, a relationship that was healthy, and the ability to work, the ability to leave the house without having panic attacks,
Mhm.
you know, and so that was the concept behind Leaving Eden. Fear of Unique Identity was taking a look at how people behave like their peers for fear of sticking out, for fear of being singled out, and wouldn't that be a problem if your peers were spiritually retarded, you know? So you got people literally removing positive aspects of their personality to fit in with a peer group, you know? So, and the message behind that was society has to, for that reason alone, we have to maintain positivity as much as possible.
Okay, and my last question is, what moves you artistically these days? Are you moved by new music, or are you are you inspired by different things from different mediums, different art?
Music,
Or
always.
it's always music?
Always.
Old
Yeah.
music or new music? Like things that you have been listening to
I'm
already?
trying my best to discover new bands, because for so many years I've been like an old middle-aged man, kind of like, nah, music's finished, there's no good music anymore, you know.
You don't think like that anymore?
No, because I've forced myself to go looking, you know, because I can't just keep listening to fucking Pink Floyd and, you know, Ultravox for the rest of my life, you know, Black Sabbath. It's been done to death, you know. So, and I mean, I've got to say, Spotify has been the medium that's helped me.
Yeah.
You know.
Streaming platforms. Let's say.
Yeah. I mean, it analyses my listening habits, and every Friday, it gives me a release radar.
And it's quite scary because it really knows what you like.
Oh yeah, it's spot
does.
on. Yeah. So like literally every Friday, I look forward to Friday now. And you know what? Even if I only find one song a week, it's still one song a week. You know. So, yeah, music. Even when I was a kid, I mean, I've got no brothers and sisters, so time spent in the house was either I was playing with toys or putting these magical black discs onto it, you know, and listening, and just letting the music kind of affect the feelings in my stomach, you know, and when the music changes and you get that bump, and
I hear you.
You know, so it's always been that way, and I'm making sure I don't ever lose that connection.
So you're 45 and you still get goosebumps?
Yeah, totally.
I'm 37 and I do too.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Well, there's an EP that was released last year, and I only really noticed it a few weeks ago. The girl's called A. Williams.
Haven't heard of her.
It's just, yeah, it was very low key. A couple
American?
of people, I think she's from London.
Oh,
Yeah.
English. Okay.
She's got a bit of a Chelsea Wolf vibe,
Okay.
and I discovered that EP a couple of weeks ago, and I've just had the first 2 songs on repeat. And it reminds me of being a kid, where I'd finish a song and then play it again, you know, keep going.
So music can still hit you, huh?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's there. You just have to go searching for it, you know.
Good to hear.
And don't lapse into being a boring old man like I was a few years ago. Music is finished.
Mick, among these times, it's really, really nice to see you again.
You too, Emre.
And it's really, really nice to see that your mood is up, that you're still producing music. I cannot tell you enough. I cannot stress enough how much your music means to me, how much it meant to me, how much it still means to me.
Thank you.
So please keep making the great music. The latest album was amazing, if you ask me.
Thank you.
So I'll be expecting the new one, and it's always nice to see you.
Awesome. You too, Emre.
Yep.
Thanks
Thank
very
you very
much, man.
Yep. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Hop, biz buradayız. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz bizi dinlediğiniz için. Görüşmek üzere.
Remove